Hi there. My name is Cory Pierce, and I'm an Iboga provider. I give Iboga plant extract to people for treatment from addiction to PTSD to Parkinson's disease. There's a whole list of people who ask me questions all the time when I'm doing treatments. So I want to kind of put together a sort of answer for everybody so I can just answer some of the general questions that I get on a regular basis. First question that I get on a regular basis would be, can you die from taking Iboga? Well, the answer to that is like with anything, if you take excessive amounts of anything, you can definitely die from it. Iboga is a stimulant, at the same time, it has an effect where it causes what's called a QT inhibitor effect. And this QT inhibitor effect essentially slows the heartbeat down to ranges that really upset most of the medical community because it gets below 50 beats per minute. And that usually makes doctors really nervous and medical professionals very nervous because they don't understand how the action works. But it's a very standard, it's a very common, it happens to everybody that take Iboga. Everybody who takes Iboga has that effect. So if you take that Iboga, if you're taking Iboga and you have a heart condition, you've had heart surgery, poor liver function, they can all be things that you gotta look for before taking Iboga to make sure you're healthy enough to take Iboga. Just like opiates and benzos, who are also QT inhibitors, very powerful QT inhibitors. And some of the long-lasting opiates like methadone and Suboxone can last up to 15 days in the system as QT inhibitors. So you don't like to overlap and mix these QT inhibitors together. So if you're doing a treatment for opiates, you want to make sure that the person's in withdrawal, depending on the type of opiate they're taking. Same with the benzos. You want to make sure as much as the stuff is out of the system as possible, also knowing the timeline for that drug that they're on. Okay. Can Iboga cure addiction alone with just one treatment? The answer to that is categorically yes, absolutely. That's why Iboga is a threat to the medical community and the big pharma because it's a one treatment. When you're taking Iboga, it's essentially a chemical reset of all your receptors. And you've probably heard this 1,000 times before. It's like a computer hard drive reset. It is chemically speaking and neurologically speaking and in every way a reset. And also, I think in some ways, spiritually speaking, it's reset. But if you're not a nice person before Iboga, you're probably not going to be a nice person after Iboga. It doesn't change your personality. It might make you more appreciative of life. It might enhance your beliefs and stuff and your place in the world. And it'll help you absolutely. It stops all cravings for addiction. It's a game changer. Okay, what is Iboga and where does it come from? Well, Iboga is like a bush. You can call it a bush. It's not a tree, it's a bush, a large shrub, we'll say, that's found in equatorial Africa, in the Congo, Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, southern Cameroon area. It's indigenous to that region of the world. Um, it can also be grown, it's been grown in places like Ghana and Suriname in South America and in Brazil. Um, so it prescribes to a certain type of climate. And it grows at a very slow rate. So, yeah, it's essentially a shrub, and the root itself is only part of the plant that people use for medicine. They don't eat the fruit, they don't use the leaf, they don't use any part except for the root, and specifically what they call the meat of the root. So, not the skin, not the outer part of the root, and not the core of the root, the hard part, but the part, they say the meat in between. That's the effective, that's where the medicine is essentially. Okay. How expensive is an Iboga treatment? Well, there's different ways you can get Iboga and take Iboga. You can go to a clinic. Usually, the most common place for people to go is Mexico. Also, there are some clinics in Canada, not even a handful of clinics in Canada, but there's quite a few in Mexico, and there's a lot of individual providers out there providing Iboga for people. The prices range. You know, I charge 2,000 US for remote dose. Most clinics in Mexico start at $10,000 and they go up to you know, an extreme version in the Bahamas is a place that's charging $100,000. So there's a real spectrum of pricing. I try to keep it as affordable as possible. I think if you bought the root and you try to do root flood, it'd be very difficult. If you did an extract flood, the flood extracts are anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000 US, depending on where you're sourcing them. So give or take between 1,000 US and 2,000, depending if they're helping you or you're just buying the root itself or the extract itself, and if it's good source. Does Iboga help with fixing nerve damage? Absolutely, it does. I've had lots of clients who've had nerve damage from methamphetamine use, where their nerves are sort of messed up because of so much methamphetamine use. And after even microdosing Iboga, they're feeling bad, and loss of feeling in their fingers, their hands. After just microdosing, not even flood dose, microdosing, the sensation, the nerves kind of connected, reset. Um, so in large doses, obviously, you have people who, Parkinson's disease, when you're microdosing, resets those receptors, so it resets those conditions. So it deals with the same symptoms. It's neurological. Any neurological is going to be fixing, it's going to be correcting on a regular basis. If you're microdosing or if you're doing a flood dose, it's just to scale how much you're taking. And that just, it's not even tricky to figure that out. It's just what you're taking it for, and that will depend on how much you need. Um, what health issues disqualify people from taking Iboga? Poor liver function, heart, anything bad with your heart. If you got like any kind of messed up heart issue, as much as Iboga will help heart function after and correct heart anomalies, heart issues after, it does actually have a really positive effect on everything, including your heart. Just be safe, especially if you're doing a large dose. If you're doing a microdose, you're not really worried about it. You can have heart issues. You're taking such a small amount that it's equivalent to taking caffeine as a stimulant. Because remember, Iboga is a stimulant, a very powerful stimulant. But in the microdose level, it's just like drinking coffee. It's not going to cause a heart attack. In flood dose levels, where you're taking large amounts of extract or um, you know strong doses, yeah, you got to make sure you have a really healthy heart, function, really good healthy heart, relatively speaking, and you have to have a good functioning liver. They're two really important aspects to take a boga, and you can't be schizophrenic. Like disqualify all if you're schizophrenic. Can a boga help treat Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and other brain diseases? Absolutely, it does. Through microdosing, not through floods. Microdosing Parkinson's in an extract form like total alkaloid, TA, or even IBNACL. I always prefer full spectrum extracts like PTA or TA, but if you do an IBNACL, more full version would just be root and just microdose in large enough amounts that you'll just start reversing effects and their symptoms will stabilize and go away. But the problem is it's not a cure. You have to keep treating them. It's a long time. It's a long-term treatment. You have to keep taking the boga. Why is Iboga legal or a controlled substance in so many countries? Well, um, some of those questions are well, it all started with Nixon. So when Nixon did his scheduling of drugs, all drugs, so hence you hear like Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3, Schedule 4. Um, it was during the 60s, and for whatever reason, they decided to make psychedelics Schedule 1, cocaine Schedule 2, I think, believe, and like marijuana Schedule 1. I think it's mostly because the hippies were taking it. And somehow, because Iboga is also hallucinogenic, that no one ever took. It was not known to the general public. No one knew about Iboga, but the CIA knew about it, and certain people in the government knew about it. And they knew it was a very strong um, uh, psychedelic, but also there was other aspects they knew about it that they didn't share. Um, and they made it legal because it's a really powerful medicine. And they made it number one legal. So Schedule 1 in the States and countries like Canada, it's considered a controlled substance, so they treat it like if it's a prescription drug. So if I'm selling it, I have to be a licensed pharmacist or a licensed doctor. They make it very difficult to treat people because it interrupts the pharmaceutical monopoly. Because the one-time treatment is super effective. It cures all these diseases and problems, all these issues. Addiction is one of the hugest ones, one of the largest ones, but also PTSD and trauma and all the rest of it. So it's like a miracle. It's a God drug. It's a totally God particle. Whatever's in it's a God particle. You're inducing a God when you speak to a Boga. Um, so that's why it's illegal because it's good. If a Boga works, why doesn't Big Pharma sell it? Well, it's obvious. It's a one-time treatment, and you can't patent a plant. So you can't put a patent on a plant. You can only patent a process or a treatment itself. You can't patent the plant itself. And a Boga anyone can take, and it grows naturally. They tried to, like I said, make it illegal to have to a certain degree, but yeah, they try to make it taboo, but it's a plant, so they can't own it. Who made the connection that Iboga cures addiction? Well, that was Howard Lutzoff, who was a heroin opiate addict, but not just opiate addict. Obviously, he was an activist, and he was involved in other different sort of things, marijuana activism and stuff like that. He had a friend who was a student at one of the local universities that was taking chemistry, and he had a sample of this exotic drug, but I think it was an ibogaine HCl, so it was a purified extract of just ibogaine. And he took it and had a really bad trip, and realized after the bad trip, with 3 days feeling like crap, or 2 3 days feeling like crap, that he didn't have any opiate withdrawals. And he made that connection. Power lets off, and from that point on, he shared it with the world the best he could know how. What is the difference between an Iboga treatment and traditional detox? Well, Iboga treatment, what it does, it shortens the detox time. Traditional detox can take up to 30 days. Iboga treatment usually is you're done detoxing in 3 to 4 days. And also, what it does, it just doesn't just quicken it, but what it does, it stops all cravings for the substance. So a traditional detox, you may detox from the substance like cocaine or opiates or whatever it is that you're taking. But when you're done, you'll end up craving those substances. Um, and the cycle starts all over again. With Iboga, that breaks the cycle and there's no cravings. And that's the game changer about Iboga. And I think that's all my questions right now. So I'll have some other questions later as they come, and I'll try to answer them. And yeah, blessings.